Should professional wrestling moves be banned, or at least certain moves for that matter? Well, this is certainly a loaded topic that a lot of people have a lot of varying opinions on. And well, I think that makes this the perfect topic for this episode, because today... Thank you to all the wonderful supporters out there who support me over on Patreon, like True Sinister and The Reflection of Perfection. To find out how to get your own Patreon shoutout, please go over and check out my Patreon page. Alright, as I've said before, this is not a wrestling news channel. And while a report did come out saying that AEW officials had sent out a document claiming that certain moves need approval before they were done and some moves were now banned altogether, that doesn't mean that I'm reporting this story, because I'm not. But we are going to be talking about this list, as well as some moves that are also allegedly banned by WWE as well. And even though this report does come from a highly reliable source, one that I've praised in the past, that doesn't mean I know for sure whether or not this is true. But regardless as to what happens with this story, I do think it opens up the broader conversation about how we feel about certain moves being banned and how we feel about the idea of moves being banned in general. And so, with all that being said, let's get into this alleged list, and we'll start by talking about the moves that apparently need to be approved if this whole new ruling goes into effect. So these are the moves that, according to this report, need to be approved before they can be done. They include spots and bumps on the ring apron and outside, as well as table, ladder, and chair spots in and out of the ring, any elevated spots outside of the barricades, dives, and ladder spots on the stage and around the arena, and other places outside the ring. Okay, so let's take the time to reiterate. If, and that's if, this does indeed go through, everything that I just mentioned isn't going to be removed completely from AEW TV, it's just going to need approval first, as it's going to be pretty hard to do certain AEW matches if this stuff was eliminated altogether. And since AEW is really well known for some of this kind of stuff, getting rid of it would probably be a bad idea, at least in the eyes of their fan base. But don't worry, according to this report, there are going to be some moves that are straight up banned, but we're going to be talking about them later. Anyway, let's continue with this portion of the list. All pile drivers, tombstone variations, including sit-down drivers, inverted/poison hurricane ranas, and vertebreakers. Now, according to some, pile drivers have been a long banned move in WWE, even though that didn't stop the likes of CM Punk during that one match with John Cena. And of course, this all had to do with what happened to Stone Cold Steve Austin after his match with Owen Hart. It's allegedly why the Underbiker switched to using a powerbomb instead, and it should also be pointed out that other companies never had such a ban. And so, while the move is extremely dangerous looking, we do have to ask, with other promotions doing it, is it really such a problem? Moving on, high-risk dives or top rope moves, 630s, double moonsaults, shooting star presses, etc., as well as intentional bleeding of any sort, not just blading. And of course, this comes right after Jon Moxley made some pretty declarative statements about how important he thinks bleeding is to the wrestling business. It should be noted that WWE has allegedly also banned the shooting star press too, ever since the whole WrestleMania 19 incident with one Brock Lesnar. But that's not to say that it hasn't happened since in the House of McMahon, because it has. So that means either WWE randomly changes their mind about things, or it's that these moves were never really banned in the first place. Which does bring up the question, if a move is banned, does that mean it has to stay banned forever? And if it's not going to be permanent, then why even bother in the first place? Is it just a temporary measure, a reactionary method to shut the board up? Well, who's to say? Oh, but also, I do think we should bring up the idea that maybe, just maybe, only certain people are allowed to do these moves. And if that's true, is that okay? Should it be what's banned for one should be banned for all? Or can you blatantly tell some people you have no business even trying this, so stay on the ground? And in the case of AEW, if they are looking to get approval before moves like the shooting star press are done, maybe that's their solution to this problem. Anyway, continuing on with this list, throwing people into, through, or over the ring steps, commentary table, bell table, or guardrails/barricades. And in terms of weapon usage, chairs, pipes, kendo sticks, hammers, ring bells, bats, chains, title belts, thumbtacks, skewers, barbed wire, and any other sharp or puncturing object, as well as powders, aerosol sprays, or liquids. I'm beginning to feel like I'm reading off of that list of the things that Taz eats. The Looney Tunes character, not the wrestler. Furthermore, throwing any weapon or object also needs approval as well, as does choking or strangling with hands or a weapon or any hanging spots. And on top of that, any injury spot or angle, whether medical is involved or not, must be approved as well. And further still, any physicality in the crowd or crowd brawling, and any physicality involving referees, managers, extras, celebrities, or special guests. Okay, so keep in mind where we left off, as we are going to be returning to this concept, but we're going to be doing it as we move into the next phase of this report, as these are the activities that will be straight up banished from All Elite Wrestling if this list is indeed approved. Reportedly, a document was sent out that specifically bans unprotected chair shots to the head, shots to the back of the head, buckle bombs, blind moves that go backwards into turnbuckles, fencing responses, and even seizure cells. Okay, so clearly this is a major issue, as this all has to do with the concussion protocol, and let's not pretend that we don't know this all stems from what happened to Chris Benoit. And I for one think this is a good idea, as I really don't think it's necessary, as a simple one-off chair shot to the back is all you need, if you even need it at all. But therein lies the issue, because once upon a time, one simple single solitary chair shot to the back was enough to end a match. Nowadays, it takes like 20, and even then it's no guarantee. If you look at old WWF chair shots from the 1980s versus the ones that happened in the early 2000s in WWE, or even the kind that Cody Rhodes took in AEW from Shawn Spears, you'll see that it's a much different ballgame, and one that you probably shouldn't be playing. Well, personally, when it comes to the idea of banning moves, I'm not the biggest fan of the concept, but I will say when it comes to chair shots to the dome piece, that's one thing I definitely feel is completely unnecessary. Okay, so now let's continue with what else is being proposed to be banned. Spitting, bleeding in the crowd, the use of weapons or projectiles in the crowd, taking drinks or food from people in the crowd, or any other physical contact with the crowd. It was also noted that nothing with blood on it should be thrown into the crowd either. Now this, I have to say, must be a pretty sizable issue, but not one concerning wrestler safety, but rather the safety of fans. As not only can it be dangerous, but they can also turn around and sue you. And when we look at the work of wrestlers like MJF, who threw a cup of water in a young fan's face, well, we can see why AEW might be considering making this a ruling. But at the same time, fan engagement is a huge part of what makes wrestling great, especially when you're part of the live audience, as it really does make you feel like you're part of the show, and it can help to bring in more fans and make lifelong fans out of those who are there. And of course, a heel's job is to get heat, but where exactly is the line? So again, this is a pretty tricky issue, especially for All Elite Wrestling, because they like to go out into the crowd a lot. It's almost like the old days of ECW. But hey, there are some things that are considered to be completely fine when you're a small independent promotion, but when you grow past a certain level, you kind of have to knock some of that stuff off. And some would say that AEW was never on that low of a level, and they should have been doing these things right from the start. Wrestling is a complex art form, and as such, it's really hard to tell where the line should be drawn between wrestler safety and creative freedom. But remember, this is all if this does go into effect, which it may not. So I think it's good that we start talking about this now, as hopefully our feedback can help AEW to make the best and most informed decision possible. But either way, I think this is a good time to bring up something that I think a lot of us fans take for granted, and it's that these moves hurt. These moves are dangerous, and when is the risk not worth the reward? Personally, I feel in today's wrestling, a lot of fans just love the brutality as they watch things and say, oh, that was so brutal, and they think that's what good wrestling is. And I get it, strong style can be very entertaining, but at the same time, is this coming at a detriment? It's been said that this document is being pitched around because AEW has growing concerns about wrestler safety, and I think that's a very important issue, one that we can't take lightly. And so, what do you think? What moves do you think should need approval first, and which moves do you think should be banned altogether? Let me know down in the comments, and please be sure to be a member of the Know It All Nation by subscribing to this channel, and also thank you to all my wonderful, amazing Patreon supporters. Your help always means a lot. And thank you for watching, and as always, Dave knows.